The emergency alarm echoed through the Galactic Council chamber like a death cry. Ambassador Zethkalar of the Villani stood before hundreds of alien delegates, his blue skin flickering with fear patterns that made the translators work overtime. His forearms shook as he held the datapad containing the worst news the galaxy had heard in 1,000 years. Council members, the hive swarm has broken through our outer defense lines, Zethkalar announced, his voice barely steady. 3 of our colony worlds are gone. The bioships consumed everything. Our people, our cities, even the air itself. We have maybe 2 days before they reach Velan Prime, where 12 billion of my people wait to die. The massive chamber erupted in panic. Delegates from 100 different worlds began talking at once, their various languages creating a chaos of sound that the translation systems could barely handle. The hive swarm was the nightmare that kept entire civilizations awake at night. They were living ships that could adapt to any weapon, learn from any attack and grow stronger with each victory. Chancellor Morth raised his forearms for silence. His insect-like features showed the strain of command as he tried to maintain order in the chamber. What happened to the Corvani defense fleet? They had 300 ships guarding the border. Destroyed in the first attack wave, Zethkalar replied, his skin now a sickly purple color. Their plasma cannons barely scratched the swarm ships. The biohulls adapted to the energy weapons within minutes. The Trilaxian battle groups lasted 6 minutes longer before they were consumed too. A heavy silence fell over the chamber. Every species present knew their own fleets used similar weapons. Energy beams, plasma cannons, particle accelerators, all the sophisticated tools of civilized warfare. If the Corvani and Trilaxians had failed so quickly, what hope did anyone else have? We need to evacuate the Villani system, suggested High. Minister Quelth, her crystalline form glowing with nervous energy. Move the population to safer worlds until we can find a solution. There is no time, Zethkalar said quietly. Even our fastest ships cannot evacuate 12 billion people in 2 days. And where would we take them? The swarm follows the scent of life across space. They will hunt us wherever we go. The chamber fell silent again. The assembled delegates stared at their displays, watching the swarm's steady advance toward the Villani homeworld. Red dots marked the positions of bioships, each one the size of a city and hungry for organic matter to consume. There is one option, Zethkalar said hesitantly. The humans have offered to help. The chamber exploded in alarm. Humans, the violent species from the death world called Earth. They had only made contact with galactic civilization 5 years ago, and most species still considered them barely controlled savages. Their planet was a nightmare of extreme weather, deadly animals and toxic plants that would kill any civilized being within hours. Absolutely not, declared High Minister Quelth, her crystal body flashing angry red. The humans are untested in real combat. Their technology is primitive compared to ours. Their methods are brutal and uncivilized. They have never fought the hive swarm, added Chancellor Morth. How can they succeed where our greatest fleets have failed? Zethkalar looked around the chamber at the faces of his fellow delegates. He saw fear in every expression, terror in every gesture. These were the leaders of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, and they were helpless against the approaching swarm. Because they are willing to try, he said simply. Every other species has refused to send aid. They say the risk is too great, the chance of success too small. Only the humans answered our call. 3 sectors away from the council chamber, Admiral Jack Morrison stood on the bridge of the human dreadnought USS Vengeance. At 52 years old, he was a veteran of humanity's expansion into space, his weathered face marked by scars from the Titan Wars and the siege of Mars Colony. Around him, his bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, preparing for what might be humanity's first major battle in galactic space. Sir, we have official authorization from Earth Command, reported Communications Officer Lisa Park, her fingers dancing across her console. Operation Lifeline is approved. We have full authority to engage the hive swarm. Morrison nodded slowly as he studied the holographic display showing the swarm's advance. Humanity had been watching this threat for months through long-range sensors, analyzing the bioships and their tactics while the galactic powers debated and delayed. Human scientists and military strategists had been busy preparing for this moment. "Signal the fleet," Morrison commanded. "All ships prepare for immediate jump to the Volani system, and get me Colonel Danny Carter on the assault carrier." The main screen shifted to show a stern-faced Marine officer aboard the USS Liberty. Carter's left arm was cybernetic, a replacement for the limb he had lost during the defense of Europa Station. His scarred face showed the kind of determination that only came from surviving Earth's harshest environments. "Colonel, are your Marines ready for action?" Carter's face split into a predatory grin that would have terrified most alien species. "Always ready, sir. My people have been studying the swarm ship data from our probe missions. We think we found some weak points in their biology." "Good. We will only get one chance at this, Danny. The whole galaxy is watching us." "Copy that, Admiral. We will not let you down." As the transmission ended, Morrison turned to his tactical officer, Commander Ryan Brooks. "Status report on our new weapon systems?" Brooks checked his displays before responding. "The kinetic bombardment platforms are fully loaded and ready, sir." Dr. Kate Sullivan reports that her experimental fusion torpedoes are showing green across all systems. The magnetic accelerators are functioning within normal parameters. Morrison allowed himself a small smile. While other species had focused on energy weapons and defensive shields, humanity had taken a different approach to space warfare. If the swarm ships could adapt to energy attacks, Earth scientists had reasoned, perhaps simple kinetic force might prove more effective. "Helm, take us to jump position," Morrison ordered. "All ships, formation Delta 7. Time to show these aliens what humans can do when pushed too far." The human fleet began moving toward the hyperspace jump point, their dark hulls bristling with weapons that looked primitive compared to the elegant energy systems used by other species. 67 ships of various classes, from nimble destroyers to massive dreadnoughts, all crewed by humans who had grown up on the most dangerous planet in known space. As they prepared to jump, Morrison thought about the desperate message from the Volani ambassador. 12 billion lives hung in the balance, and humanity was their only hope. It was a responsibility that would have crushed most species, but humans had been bearing impossible burdens since they first walked upright on the African plains. The jump countdown began, and Morrison felt the familiar anticipation that came before battle. Soon they would know if human stubbornness and ingenuity could stand against the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. The human fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Volani system like thunder, breaking through a clear sky. 67 warships spread out in perfect formation, their dark hulls looking crude and primitive compared to the sleek vessels used by other galactic civilizations. But Admiral Morrison knew that sometimes the simplest tools were the most effective ones. On the bridge of USS Vengeance, Morrison studied the tactical display with growing concern. The hive swarm was even larger than their intelligence reports had suggested. Hundreds of bioships filled the space between the outer planets, ranging from small hunter-killers the size of frigates to massive dreadnought organisms that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. "Admiral, incoming transmission from Volani." "Command," announced Lisa Park from her communication station. The main screen flickered to life, showing Ambassador Zethkalar surrounded by his military advisors. The Volani's blue skin had turned a sickly purple color, and his large eyes were wide with barely controlled terror. Behind him, Morrison could see other aliens running back and forth in panic. "Admiral Morrison, thank the stars you have arrived," Zethkalar said, his voice shaking. "The swarm has broken through our inner defense perimeter. They will reach Valen Prime in 18 hours. Our remaining ships cannot slow them down." "Understood, Ambassador. We are moving to intercept the swarm. Now, I need you to evacuate all civilian populations to underground shelters immediately. This battle is going to be rough." Zethkalar nodded quickly. "Admiral, I must warn you about something important. Our most advanced weapons have proven completely useless against these creatures. The swarm ships adapt to any attack within minutes. They have evolved defenses against plasma fire, particle beams, even nuclear warheads." Morrison's expression remained calm and unchanged. "Good thing we do not use any of those weapons." Before the ambassador could ask what he meant, the transmission cut as the fleet moved into attack formation. Morrison turned to his weapons officer, Lieutenant Commander Susan Hayes, a veteran of the asteroid mining wars who knew more about kinetic weapons than anyone in the fleet. Susan, give me a firing solution on the lead bioship cluster. Let us see how they adapt to a tungsten rod moving at 30% of light speed. Hayes grinned as her fingers flew over the targeting controls. Her console lit up with firing data as the ship's massive magnetic launchers came online. Kinetic bombardment platforms locked and loaded, sir. Projectiles armed and ready for launch. Fire when ready. The human fleet's first attack was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen in space warfare. Instead of colorful energy beams or explosive missiles, the ships launched what appeared to be simple metal rods. But these rods had been accelerated to incredible velocities by magnetic launchers that ran the entire length of each ship's hull. The tungsten projectiles struck the lead swarm ships with devastating effect. Unlike energy weapons that could be absorbed, reflected, or dispersed, the kinetic rounds punched through bioarmor like bullets through paper. The massive organisms writhed and ruptured as the rods tore through their internal organs, venting atmosphere and biological fluids into the cold vacuum of space. Direct hits on 7 targets, Hayes reported with satisfaction. All enemy vessels showing critical damage. 2 are breaking apart completely. But Morrison's expression remained grim as he watched the swarm's response on the tactical display. The damaged ships began secreting a thick metallic substance over their wounds. Some kind of adaptive armor plating was growing over the impact sites within minutes. They are already adapting to our attack, observed Commander Brooks from the tactical station. It looks like they are growing some kind of reactive protection over the damaged areas. Expected, Morrison replied calmly. Susan switched to the armor-piercing rounds for the next volley. Let us see them adapt to depleted uranium moving even faster. While the main fleet engaged the swarm ships in space, Morrison activated the second phase of the human battle plan. Colonel Carter, your Marines are cleared for deployment. Show these creatures what happens when you invade the home of predators. Aboard the assault carrier USS Liberty, Colonel Danny Carter stood before 200 of humanity's finest warriors. These were not ordinary soldiers. They were volunteers from Earth's most extreme environments, veterans of conflicts in the crushing depths of Europa's oceans and the toxic atmosphere of Venus's floating cities. Listen up, Marines. Carter's voice echoed through the launch bay. Those bioships out there think they are tough because they can adapt to energy weapons. Well, they have never met anything from Earth before. Sergeant Amy Rodriguez checked. Her weapon, a magnetically accelerated rifle that fired depleted uranium rounds at hypersonic velocities. Around her, other Marines made final preparations, their powered armor gleaming under the bay's lights. Each suit was designed to function in the worst environments Earth could produce. Remember your biology training, Carter continued. These things are alive, which means they have organs, nervous systems, and vital functions we can disrupt. We are going in hard and fast, targeting their control centers and life support systems. Private Jake Williams raised his hand. Sir, what if they adapt to our small arms fire like they did to the ship weapons? Carter's scarred face split into a cold smile that would have made a shark proud. Son, you cannot adapt to a knife between the ribs or explosive decompression. Some things work because they are simple, not because they are sophisticated. The first wave of human assault pods launched from the Liberty like angry wasps swarming from a disturbed nest. Unlike the sleek, energy-based fighter craft used by other species, the human pods were blunt, armored projectiles designed to punch through hull plating and deliver their occupants directly into enemy ships. As the pods flew toward their targets, the swarm ships tried to intercept them with bioplasma weapons. The organic cannons fired streams of superheated matter that could melt through most known materials. But the human pods were designed differently. Instead of trying to avoid the attacks, they absorbed the hits and kept flying. Hull temperature, rising but within acceptable limits, reported the pilot of the lead pod. These Earth-made heat shields are holding up just fine. The first assault pod struck a medium-sized bioship and immediately began boring through its hull like a mechanical parasite. The ship's adaptive systems tried to seal the breach, but the pod's rotating drill bit was designed to cut through asteroid rock. Organic matter posed no challenge at all. Rodriguez was the first Marine through the breach, her rifle already tracking for targets as her boots hit the organic deck plating. The interior of the hive ship was like something from Earth's deepest ocean trenches. Pulsing walls oozed luminescent fluid, corridors breathed with the ship's heartbeat, and the air was thick with methane and sulfur compounds. Atmosphere is breathable but toxic, Rodriguez reported through her comm system. Heavy concentrations of methane and sulfur compounds. Good thing we grew up breathing smog in Detroit. Behind her, Williams and Corporal Ben Hayes spread out in tactical formation. Unlike other galactic species who needed full environmental suits, the Marines wore minimal breathing apparatus. Their lungs had been conditioned by Earth's polluted cities and industrial zones. The swarm had never faced an enemy like this before. The human assault pod punched through the bioship's hull with a wet tearing sound, followed by the hiss of escaping atmosphere. Sergeant Amy Rodriguez was the first Marine through the breach, her rifle already scanning for targets as her boots touched the organic deck plating. The surface beneath her feet felt warm and slightly soft, like walking on living skin. The interior of the hive ship was a nightmare that would have driven most galactic species insane with fear. Pulsing walls oozed glowing fluid that dripped from the ceiling like acidic rain. Corridors expanded and contracted with the ship's breathing, and the air was thick with gases that would have killed any civilized being within minutes. Atmosphere readings show high methane and sulfur content, Rodriguez reported through her comm system to the other Marines. Lucky for us, this smells better than the air back home in New Jersey. Behind her, Private Jake Williams and Corporal Ben Hayes spread out in tactical formation. Their powered armor was designed for the worst environments Earth could produce, from the crushing depths of ocean trenches to the toxic storms of industrial cities. This alien ship was just another hostile environment to survive. Movement ahead, Williams whispered, raising his kinetic rifle. Something big coming our way. The first swarm drone rounded the corner like a living nightmare from humanity's darkest fears. It was spider-like but the size of a small car, its black carapace gleaming with bioluminescent patterns that hurt to look at directly. Multiple sensor organs twisted toward the human intruders while razor-sharp claws extended from its limbs. Rodriguez's rifle barked 3 times in rapid succession. The depleted uranium rounds punched through the drone's armor plating and sent it crashing to the deck in a spray of alien blood. The creature twitched once and then lay still, its glowing patterns fading to darkness. 2 more drones emerged from side passages, their bodies already showing adaptive changes from scanning the first casualty. Thicker armor plating covered their vital areas, and their limb configurations had shifted to provide better protection against kinetic attacks. They are learning from the first kill, Hayes observed, switching his rifle to explosive rounds. But they are not learning fast enough to matter. The Marines moved deeper into the ship with the ruthless efficiency that came from growing up on humanity's death world. While other galactic species fought according to civilized rules of engagement, humans had learned warfare in the school of survival against Earth's most dangerous predators. They used the ship's own biology against it, targeting nerve clusters and circulatory systems with surgical precision. Found something interesting, Williams called out from a branching passage. Looks like some kind of control center up ahead. The chamber beyond was filled with a massive, brain-like organ suspended in glowing biofluid. Thick neural cables snaked away from it in all directions, pulsing with electrical activity that made the air taste like copper. This was clearly one of the ship's primary coordination centers, the biological equivalent of a computer core. Rodriguez pulled a satchel charge from her belt. It was a simple explosive device that relied on chemical reactions rather than sophisticated technology. Time to give this thing a headache it cannot adapt to. While Rodriguez and her team planted explosives inside the bioship, the space battle continued to rage outside. Admiral Morrison watched from the bridge of USS Vengeance as his fleet engaged the swarm in running combat, unlike anything in galactic military history. The human ships moved with surprising agility, using their primitive but reliable fusion drives to stay ahead of the swarm's bioplasma weapons. "Sir, Bioship Cluster Alpha 7 is showing significant internal damage," reported Commander Brooks from his tactical station. "It looks like our Marine teams are finding their targets inside those things." Morrison nodded grimly as he studied the battle display. The human strategy was simple but brutally effective. While the larger swarm organisms tried to adapt their hulls to kinetic bombardment, Marine assault teams were hitting them from the inside with weapons and tactics that could not be easily countered. "Signal from Colonel Carter, sir," announced Lisa Park from Communications. Carter's voice crackled through the comm system, punctuated by the sound of explosions and rifle fire in the background. "Admiral, we have identified the swarm's coordination system. These creatures operate on a bioelectric network that links all their ships together. If we can disrupt enough command nodes at the same time, we might be able to break their formation completely." "How many nodes do you need to hit simultaneously?" "At least 12 major ones, spread across the biggest bioships in their fleet. And the timing has to be perfect. If we give them time to adapt, they will develop countermeasures." Morrison studied the tactical display showing the positions of the largest swarm vessels. 12 simultaneous strikes would require splitting his Marine forces across multiple dangerous targets, leaving each team vulnerable if the plan failed. But if it worked, it could cripple the entire swarm fleet. "Do it, Colonel. All assault teams, you have your targets. Operation Mindkiller is authorized and active." Across the battlefield, human assault pods launched toward the largest swarm ships like a coordinated swarm of mechanical wasps. Each Marine team carried the same simple but effective weapons that had served humanity well during their rise from Earth's hostile surface. Kinetic rifles, chemical explosives, and centuries of combat experience gained from surviving on the galaxy's most dangerous planet. As the Marines penetrated deeper into the bioships, they encountered increasingly desperate resistance. The swarm entities began adapting not just their external hulls but their internal defenses as well. New types of guardian organisms grew from the ship walls, and passages began sealing themselves behind the human intruders. But for every adaptation the swarm made, the humans found a counter-solution. When passages sealed shut, they used shaped charges to blast new ones open. When guardian organisms grew thicker armor, the Marines switched to armor-piercing rounds or simply bypassed them entirely through ventilation systems. Target acquired. Rodriguez reported from deep within the largest bioship in the swarm fleet. Before her lay a massive neural cluster that served as the creature's brainstem. It was a pulsing mass of organic computing power that coordinated every function of the enormous vessel. The neural cluster was protected by a thick membrane and surrounded by defensive organisms that looked like living antibodies. But Rodriguez had fought through worse defenses during the siege of Luna City. She pulled out her last satchel charge and armed the timer. "All teams report ready," Carter's voice announced over the general comm channel. "Charges placed and armed on all 12 targets. Detonation sequence begins in 10 seconds. Morrison watched the tactical display with held breath. If this coordinated attack worked, it would prove that sometimes the simplest solutions were the most effective ones. If it failed, humanity would have revealed their tactics to the swarm for nothing. 5 seconds to detonation. Carter counted down. "All teams, prepare for immediate extraction after the charges blow." The countdown reached 0 and 12 explosions erupted simultaneously across the swarm fleet. The coordinated explosions rippled through 12 massive bioships at exactly the same moment, each blast severing crucial neural pathways that had taken the swarm centuries to evolve. For the first time since the battle began, the perfect coordination of the hive mind faltered like a symphony with broken instruments. Admiral Morrison watched with grim satisfaction as the swarm ships began drifting out of their tight formation. Their movements became erratic and uncoordinated, like a flock of birds suddenly losing their ability to communicate. Several smaller bioships collided with their larger cousins, while others began firing their bioplasma weapons randomly into empty space. "It is working," Commander Brooks reported with barely contained excitement. "The swarm network is breaking apart. They are losing coordination across their entire fleet formation." But Morrison knew better than to celebrate too early. On the tactical display, he could see the larger bioships beginning to pulse with new, bioluminescent patterns. The swarm was already trying to adapt, attempting to establish backup coordination protocols to replace their damaged primary network. "All ships press the attack while they are confused," Morrison commanded over the fleet communication system. "Focus all fire on the drifting vessels. Do not give them time to reorganize their defenses. The human fleet surged forward like a pack of wolves sensing wounded prey. Their kinetic weapons hammered the disorganized bioships with devastating efficiency. Without their collective intelligence guiding defensive maneuvers, the individual swarm entities proved far less capable of protecting themselves. Deep inside the largest bioship, Sergeant Rodriguez and her team were fighting their way toward the extraction point when the deck beneath them began to shake violently. The ship was dying, its biological systems shutting down one by one as the neural damage spread throughout its massive body. "Move, move, move," she shouted to her Marines, leading them through corridors that were rapidly filling with toxic gases as the creature's organs failed. Behind them, they could hear the wet sounds of internal structures collapsing as the bioship entered its death throes. Private Williams stumbled as a section of the ceiling collapsed, spraying them all with acidic biological fluid that began eating through their armor plating. "Sarge, my suit is compromised. The acid is burning through." The protective layers. Rodriguez grabbed him by the arm and hauled him forward with the strength that came from growing up in Earth's heavy gravity. "Earthborn Marines do not quit, Williams. You survived acid rain in Pittsburgh. This is just another day at the office." They reached their breach point just as the bioship's death throes reached critical intensity. The assault pod's emergency beacon was flashing, indicating that extraction was beginning immediately. Around them, the ship's biological systems were failing in cascade as the neural damage spread like a virus through its living circuits. Colonel Carter's voice crackled through their communication systems with urgency. "All teams, immediate extraction required. The big ones are starting to collapse internally." One by one, the Marine teams fought their way back to their extraction points as the bioships they had infiltrated began dying around them. The simple explosive charges and kinetic weapons had accomplished what sophisticated energy weapons could not. They had given the swarm creatures wounds that could not be easily healed or adapted to. In the command center of Velan Prime, Ambassador Seth Kalar watched the battle with growing amazement and hope. The massive bioships that had seemed completely invincible just hours before were now breaking apart, their adaptive hulls failing as their internal coordination systems collapsed, like dominoes. "How is this even possible?" asked General Vorth, the Volani military commander, his four eyes wide with disbelief. "Our detailed analysis showed that the swarm ships could adapt to any weapon system within minutes of first contact." Zeth Kalar's blue skin flickered with patterns of wonder and growing respect. "The humans are not using weapon systems in the way we understand them. They are using simple weapons that rely on basic physical principles, rather than sophisticated energy manipulation technology." On the main display screen, they watched as human kinetic rounds continued to tear through bioship hulls like bullets through flesh. Each projectile was nothing more than a metal rod accelerated to extreme velocity, but the cumulative effect was absolutely devastating. The swarm entities simply could not adapt to the fundamental laws of physics themselves. "Signal coming in. From Admiral Morrison," announced the communications officer with excitement in his voice. Morrison's weathered face appeared on the screen, speaking from his battle-scarred bridge where sparks flew from damaged control panels. "Ambassador, we have successfully broken their main formation, but this fight is far from over. The surviving bioships are regrouping near the asteroid belt at the edge of your system. They are trying to use the debris field for cover while they adapt to our attack tactics. What assistance do you need from our remaining forces, Admiral?" Morrison's expression was grim but filled with determination. "Just stay out of our way, Ambassador. We are about to show these creatures what happens when they threaten our friends and allies." As the human fleet moved toward the asteroid belt, in pursuit of the retreating swarm, Morrison turned to his science officer, Dr. Kate Sullivan. The brilliant physicist had been working frantically throughout the entire battle, analyzing the swarm's behavior patterns and biological signatures, with her team. "Kate, what is your professional assessment? Can they develop effective adaptations to kinetic weapons?" Dr. Sullivan brought up her analysis on the main screen, showing detailed biological scans of the damaged bioships. "Not in the same way. They adapted to energy weapons, sir. They can try to grow thicker armor plating, but that makes them significantly slower and less maneuverable. They can attempt to deflect kinetic rounds, but the energy requirements are enormous and unsustainable. Basically, sir, you cannot adapt to a big enough rock moving fast enough to matter. Morrison nodded slowly as he studied the tactical situation. The swarm had retreated to the asteroid belt, clearly hoping to use the rocky debris as both cover and potential weapons. But that defensive position might also provide humanity with an unexpected opportunity. He turned to his tactical officer, with a plan forming in his mind. Brooks, what is the largest asteroid in that belt? Brooks consulted his sensor readings carefully. Designated asteroid 77 Alpha, sir. Approximately 2 kilometers in diameter, composed mostly of iron and nickel. Total mass roughly 4 billion tons. Perfect for our purposes. Signal the fleet. We are going to play a game of cosmic billiards with these creatures. The human battle plan was audacious in its brutal simplicity. Using their ship's tractor beams and precisely coordinated thrust vectors, they would accelerate the massive asteroid to significant velocity and use it as the ultimate kinetic weapon against the regrouping swarm. The human fleet arranged itself around asteroid 77 Alpha, like ancient hunters positioning themselves around a massive prey animal. Every tractor beam locked onto the iron-nickel mass while fusion engines burned at maximum output, slowly, but steadily accelerating the 4 billion-ton projectile toward the regrouping swarm, hiding in the debris field. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of USS Vengeance, watching power levels drop across all ship systems as the fleet channeled everything into moving their improvised weapon. The asteroid was responding to their efforts, slowly at first but building dangerous momentum with each passing minute, like an avalanche gaining speed down a mountain. Current velocity shows 2 kilometers per second and climbing steadily, reported Commander Brooks from his tactical station. Estimated time to target impact is 47 minutes if we maintain current acceleration rates. Sir, the swarm has detected our intentions, announced Lisa Park from her communications position. Multiple bioships are breaking from the debris. Field cover. They are moving to intercept our asteroid weapon. Morrison watched the tactical display as dozens of swarm entities moved to position themselves between the accelerating asteroid and their main force. These creatures possessed intelligence beyond what anyone had expected. They understood the threat and were acting to counter it with typical swarm efficiency. Expected response, Morrison said calmly to his bridge crew. Signal Colonel Carter, aboard the Liberty. Time for the diversionary assault to begin. Aboard USS Liberty, Danny Carter was already suited up in his powered armor, checking his weapon systems one final time before the mission. Around him, his remaining Marines prepared for what might be their most dangerous assignment yet. The assault bay buzzed with quiet activity as soldiers made final equipment checks. Listen up, people, Carter announced to his troops over the internal communication system. Those bioships think they can stop our big rock by throwing themselves in its path. We are going to show them that when you mess with Earth, you get the whole deadly ecosystem fighting back. Sergeant Rodriguez grinned as she loaded fresh armor-piercing rounds into her kinetic rifle. Sir, are we really going to assault moving targets in open space while they try to intercept an asteroid? Rodriguez, you have fought in the methane, storms of Titan and survived the crushing depths of Europa's oceans. A little vacuum and some angry aliens will not slow you down today. The Marine assault pods launched from the Liberty like a swarm of metallic hornets, each one targeting the bioships moving to intercept the asteroid. But this time, the Marines were not just carrying standard small arms. They had brought Earth's most dangerous export to the battle, human creativity applied to the ancient art of destruction. Private Williams clutched a device that looked deceptively simple in his armored hands. It was a magnetic mine designed to attach to bioship hulls and deliver a shaped charge directly to the creature's nervous system. Sarge, you sure these biomines will actually work against these things? Williams, Dr. Sullivan, designed those devices based on how earth wasps paralyze their prey before laying eggs. If it works on a spider back home, it will work on a space spider out here. The first assault pod punched through a bioship's adaptive hull, just as the massive creature was positioning itself to intercept the incoming asteroid. Rodriguez and her team emerged into the now familiar nightmare of pulsing organic corridors, but this time they moved with deadly purpose and perfect knowledge of their target. Target the motor cortex control center, Rodriguez commanded, consulting the biological schematics that Dr. Sullivan had provided after studying captured swarm tissue samples. We need to paralyze this thing completely, not just damage it. The Marines fought their way through the bioship's internal defenses with the ruthless efficiency that came from months of studying swarm biology. When they reached the neural cluster, controlling the creature's movement systems, Rodriguez placed one of the biomines directly against the pulsing brain tissue. "Neural disruptor armed and properly placed," she reported through her communication system. "Extraction begins in 30 seconds. Everyone move to the exit point now." Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out as human Marines infiltrated the intercepting bioships with surgical precision. One by one, the massive creatures found their motor functions failing, as Earth-designed neural disruptors shut down their nervous systems like flipping off light switches. "Sir, the intercepting bioships are going dead in space," Brooks reported, with growing satisfaction. "They are drifting out of the asteroid's flight path. Our Marines have neutralized the threat." Morrison allowed himself a small smile of satisfaction. Sometimes the old ways prove to be the best ways. Impact in 12 minutes and counting. But the swarm had prepared one final desperate adaptation. The largest bioship in their fleet, a massive organism the size of a small moon, began to move directly toward the incoming asteroid. Its hull pulsed with new bioluminescent patterns as it prepared for a collision that would destroy both the asteroid and itself. "Admiral, that massive bioship is accelerating toward our projectile," Dr. Sullivan announced with alarm in her voice. "If they collide at current velocities, the explosion will fragment the asteroid and reduce its effectiveness significantly." Morrison studied the tactical display with growing concern. The swarm's final strategy was elegant in its simplicity. Sacrifice one massive bioship to save the rest of their fleet from complete destruction. "Range to collision point?" Morrison asked his tactical officer. 4 minutes to impact between the asteroid and the bioship," Brooks replied grimly. Morrison turned to his weapons officer with determination. "Susan, do we have any kinetic rounds left in our magazines?" "Just the ship killers, sir. Depleted uranium penetrators at maximum velocity, designed to punch through heavy armor plating. Fire everything we have at that bioship's propulsion organs. If we cannot stop it completely, maybe we can slow it down enough to matter." The USS Vengeance unleashed its remaining kinetic weapons in a devastating final barrage. The depleted uranium rounds tore through the bioship's hull like bullets through flesh, seeking the massive muscle clusters that propelled it through space. Other ships in the fleet followed the attack pattern, concentrating their fire on the intercepting creature, but it was not enough to stop the massive organism. The bioship's adaptive hull was already compensating for the damage, rerouting its biological systems to maintain thrust toward the asteroid. 60 seconds to collision," Brooks announced grimly. Morrison made a decision that would define the battle and humanity's reputation in the galaxy. "All ships, emergency acceleration toward that bioship. We are going to ram it." "Sir," Dr. Sullivan protested with alarm, "our ships cannot survive a direct collision with something that massive." "We are not going to hit it directly," Morrison interrupted with calm determination. "We are going to hit it at an angle. Use our momentum to deflect its trajectory. Sometimes you have to think like a football player, not a scientist." The human fleet accelerated toward the massive bioship in perfect coordination, their fusion engines burning beyond safe operational parameters. As they closed the distance, Morrison could see details of the creature's hull. Billions of years of evolved perfection, designed to survive in the hostile environment of space. The USS Vengeance struck the bioship's flank at a shallow angle, its reinforced hull screaming as it scraped along organic armor plating. The impact sent both vessels spinning through space, but Morrison's desperate gamble succeeded. The bioship's trajectory shifted just enough to miss the incoming asteroid. The asteroid struck the main swarm formation with the force of a small apocalypse, ending the threat forever.